2 is online at uh.edu/engines. Additional episodes are available by podcast.
A new topic, local favorites, will be featured every other Wednesday on Roving with the Arts with me, your host, Mick Hess. I'll be talking with local classical, jazz, and folk musicians about their favorite styles of music and hear musical excerpts that are some of their favorites. You'll even find out what kind of music they would want to hear if they were stranded on a Pacific island. Join me for some interesting and entertaining musical insights of some of your favorite local musicians.
It's Monday morning here on KSJE, and it's time to talk to Lewis Cambell from Cintigy Computer Systems for our weekly Monday Reboot segment. There he is, joining me on Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here, and let's talk about what's going on. I guess, Bitcoin and some of the cryptocurrency is still out of sight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still going up, and, as usual, it's generating a lot of discussion about, what's going to happen in the future and where things are going to be. As we talked about before, a few weeks back, Coinbase, which is a company that basically does cryptocurrency, they went public, and that created a bit of a lift in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But the cryptocurrencies are still going up, and we have Ethereum now is getting highly rated as a cryptocurrency too, and people, again, talking a lot about how this is going to happen in the future. Different governments are taking stances on whether they're going to support Bitcoin or try to actively work against it. But again, as we've talked about before here, I think the Bitcoin thing is interesting, not just because it's a technical based deal, but also because it has the potential to change everything, because the valuation isn't based on any one government, right? It's based on just an algorithm,
right?
A mathematical calculation. So, watch this space. It just keeps going.
Interesting. Okay, but I guess the only thing I'm confused about is why there's so many. I mean, I've heard of Ethereum, I've heard of Bitcoin, but there's a whole bunch more when you start digging into these cryptocurrencies. And I guess, are they just other ways to trade the original ones, or are these actual new standalone cryptocurrencies? That's something I need to do some more business about or research about.
Each one of them is separate and unique, and basically it's just like, that's kind of where the technology part comes in, right? So we all remember the Sony versus Betamax, if you're old enough, the whole Sony versus Betamax thing, and when you see any new technology come out, there's usually like a period of time where different vendors have published different standards, and they all kind of battle it out until the market as a whole basically picks one standard. And
I see. And that's what we're seeing.
Then and that's what we're seing. So everybody's coming out with their own standard. We'll see how it all fleshes out. I think we're going to end up with more than one cryptocurrency, but probably not all the ones we have right now.
Right. This just seems to be a lot to me, so that's interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Very interesting. And I know you and I have talked a lot about net neutrality on this segment, and we talked sometime over the last 4 years, because it was the prior administration that the FCC did away with the net neutrality rules. And there's a story today from the Associated Press saying that the New York Attorney General is alleging that the broadband industry submitted millions of fake comments to the FCC supporting the repeal of net neutrality in 2017.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting...
They paid cash, I guess, for that, right? They paid cash for these fake comments, 18 million of them.
This is a really interesting and very important story. When this happened back in 2016, I know you and I talked about it on the show. Ajit Pai, who is the newly appointed commissioner of the FCC and headed the new Republican majority on the FCC, he basically said, "Look, we're going to look at net neutrality laws. We're going to go through the review of that, and there's a public comment period for that review." And he opened it up for public commentary. And at the time, there was a lot of criticism of the public commentary. People online and other experts said that, you know, the votes that were turned in, because of course the commentary was, according to Ajit Pai, overwhelmingly in support of repealing net neutrality laws. There's a lot of criticism because people were saying, well, the votes and stuff that were turned in just smacked of fraud. Like, it just, you know, people did really easy analyses that showed that, you know, there were tons of votes coming from like one IP address and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, now,
I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you because that's what this article is saying, that there was and there were on both sides, by the way. There was I think they found a 19-year-old California person submitted more than 7 million pro net neutrality comments. And then another broadband group, it's saying they spent $4.2 million generating more than 8.5 million fake anti-net neutrality comments. So anyway, lots of
and that, you know, it happened on both sides, and you know, that's the thing. That's the neat thing about this report now, is that there's some validation that, yeah, there was something was rotten in Denmark with that. I think the larger picture too is this is really important when we talk about the ability and validity to, you know, there's a lot of people that advocate moving more important things like, you know, government elections to an online format where people would vote online. And right now I think there's a real problem with that, in that, you know, the foundation of the internet was designed to be, I don't know that it was designed to be anonymous, but it wasn't designed with verification in mind. I mean, remember that the basic protocols of the internet were designed before even security was a concern.
Right.
Before we had hackers. And so there's really no built-in technical way to validate that something submitted on the internet actually came from a specific source.
Right.
And everything we have to do that is really kind of bolt-on stuff. So it's, you know, I think there may be a point in the future where we can do that, but it's definitely not with what we have now. And I think this shows how you know, ephemeral that really is.
Right. Well, and for anything, I mean, again, kudos for the government for trying to solicit public comments, but again, you know, unfortunately, it kind of shows also the problem of doing that, because then you get these millions and millions of not sincere and fake comments that can't be really used to justify any change of policy, I would think.
Yep.
Because they're from both sides. So,
yep.
Interesting. All right. Well, Louis, thank you so much. Always great to talk to you.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, have a great week.
All right, you too. That is Louis Cambell, everybody. He is with Cintigy Computer Systems, my guest every Monday with our Monday Reboot segment right here on KSJE.
A new topic, local favorites, will be featured every other Wednesday on Roving with the Arts with me, your host, Mick Hess. I'll be talking with local classical, jazz, and folk musicians about their favorite styles of music and hear musical excerpts that are some of their favorites. You'll even find out what kind of music they would want to hear if they were stranded on a Pacific island. Join me for some interesting and entertaining musical insights of some of